Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Chandoo, and today we are going to talk about modern Excel and how to use it to create effective business dashboards. While a really complex and effective dashboard can take several hours or even weeks to build, in this video presentation, I would like to concentrate on some of the best practice and quick ways to get it going. And we will be building a comprehensive dashboard for a fictional telecom provider called Tring. I'll start this presentation with a brief introduction of what I do, and then we will just get into the agenda and the context for this dashboard. So my name is Chandoo. I run a website called chandoo.org, where my mission is to make people awesome in data analysis through Power BI and Excel. I've been fortunate to get Microsoft MVP award for the last 11 years. I'm originally from India, but right now I live in New Zealand. And when I'm not working with Excel or Power BI, I love to play with data and do a little bit of programming or do some cycling or going on walks or playing video games or Lego with my son or reading. You can know more about me from either my website or at R1C1 on Twitter. Let's get into the topic of the day. I have prepared some workbooks and sample files. I'll share this link again at the end of the webinar, but you can go here, chandoo.org/WP/MS webinar for the workbook that we are going to build in this session. So the agenda for us is in the next 60 odd minutes, we are going to look at the context for this particular dashboard. I will introduce a fictional company and then talk about their business model and what they do and what they sell. We will play with, we will look at the data that we have for this report. We will prepare a mock-up dashboard, and then we will start modeling this data in Excel. We will set up a calculation engine to drive our dashboard, and then we'll create some visuals, provide some interactions, and I'll share some closing thoughts. From time to time, I'll switch to the chat window so that if there are any questions that you have, you may post them there, and then I can read them out and then answer them. But because we have quite a lot to go, I may just handpick one or two questions from time to time that are quite relevant to the topic at hand, and go back to the questions at the end of the webinar. So this is the company for which we are going to create the dashboard. It's a telecom company called Tring, and they have operations in 3 different countries: USA, Australia, and Germany. And in each country, they operate in some of the states that are there. And they offer 6 types of products. Most of them are like your prepay and postpaid connections, as well as broadband, and then on-demand television programs like sports and movies. As part of the dashboard building exercise, as an analyst, you were given weekly data of how many customers they have acquired in each of the stores for all of those 6 products, how much revenue they have generated, and what was their operational expenditure, and how many service requests they handled within that week. And we have data for the entire year of 2019 for each and every week. The week kind of begins at Monday, so that's the starting point. For the purpose of this particular dashboard, your objective is to really explain how everything is happening across business, how products are doing. They sell 6 different product categories or products, and which regions seem to be doing really well, and are there any customer acquisition hotspots where people seem to be getting, stores seem to be getting more and more customers, and explore some trends with respect to the last 13 weeks, which is usually just 1 quarter of business operations, right? So that's our goal. For the purpose of this particular dashboard, we will assume that whatever you create, it's going to be like a living dashboard, and every week we will put new data and refresh, and then the dashboard will change. So the focus is on what happened just now and then looking at the trends back for the previous 3 months or 13 weeks. So we will not bother looking at all the historical data or anything. We'll just look at latest quarter information. We will go and look at the actual data in Excel in a minute, but I thought given these goals, we could also make a quick mock-up or a drawing of the dashboard. That's usually the first step. Once you define the goals, then you want to make a drawing explaining how it could look. And this will help you clearly think through the goals and assign them to various parts of the screen. So that's what we will do. We will use these features of Excel primarily to explore the modern Excel things as well, which is we will look at Power Query for establishing connections to the data sets, using data model and relationships to set up the tables and connect them, using pivot tables to primarily drive all the calculations, because that way when the data changes, you can refresh and the pivot tables will update. And applying some visualizations and conditional format to bring things alive, and then use map charts because we got geographical data, use map charts to show trends there, and then use slicers for user interactions. Almost all of these can be used in most versions of Excel except map charts, which are available in 365 and I believe some newer standalone versions of Excel. So in case you do not have map charts, you can use some other visualization like a column chart or conditional formatting or something else. So let's go with the mockup. We can assume that whatever may be the case, how the dashboard looks, it would be like a giant box. So this is how the mockup dashboard could look like from 10,000 feet, and there would be a title on the top. And then we will provide some overall summary because we want to know how everything is happening. So we will show some summary on the top of how many customers we have, what's the revenue and expenditure in the last 1 week, and then compare with the previous week or something like that for providing more context. And we will have some derived metrics. These are quite standard in service businesses like average revenue per user, ARPU, and then service requests per user, so that we could see those trends as well. And we want to have some sort of product focus where we could explore some overall statistics and trends by products, and then look at the best performing stores for new customers. And maybe even a regional focus where we are looking at trends by geographical regions of US and Germany and Australia. So that's how our dashboard could look like. Normally in a real life situations where you are making dashboards, it is recommended that you actually ask your audience what their goals are and then make a mock-up and go back and validate it. But in a webinar, I have the luxury of defining what we need and then creating it. So we will work in that way. Okay, so now time to go back to Excel. I'm going to just go to the Excel window, but I'll briefly stop at the chat window to see if we have any technical issues or anything. I think there is, yes, looks like there is no messages here. All good. Yes, cool. So we will go to Excel here. This is the final dashboard. In case we are running out of time, which I hope not, we will skip through and come here and look at it. But this is how the final outcome should look like. Obviously, we may be able to get as close to it as possible, but not all the formatting or everything can be done in the 60-minute time frame because I'm also talking and explaining while doing this. But let's take a look at the data here. We got, as I said, weekly data for every week in the 2019. We have by each store, we are operating 74 stores. So for each store, each week, each product, how many customers they have, how many new acquisitions they did, and how many exits, people leaving the company for that product, how much was that. and then how many service requests they have, what was the dollar revenue, and what was the dollar expenditure. For the sake of simplicity, we will assume that irrespective of where we operate, whether it's Germany or Australia or US, all of the money is in US dollars, but you could also assume different local currencies and use exchange rates to calculate the total revenues, but let's not get too complicated here. So that's the data set, and it goes from 31st of December 2018 to September 23rd. That was just a couple of days ago, and then information up to that point, and then we skip to next product like that. And then we also have information about our stores. What is the store ID and what is the corresponding state and the country. And then, as I said, we have USA, Australia, and Germany. And then we also have a table that tells us information about the products. We have two different types of products, core and non-core. The core products are the phone plans, and the non-core ones are the on-demand streaming plans like SportsView and Movie Plus. And then that's the basic data. Because we wanted to look only at the first 13 weeks, I made another table called calendar table where I've listed the previous 13 weeks. So this is my report date, 23rd of September 2019, and then I calculated 13 weeks prior. So that minus 13 times 7, and then generated a table that has those dates. This is kind of a bit of manual, but it's just to keep things simple and have more finer control. So all you have to do when you have new data is change the report date, and then it will change this table. So this, as I said, is the final dashboard. What we will do is we will make a brand new Excel file. There is nothing here, and then we will start bringing all of this data over through connections. So the first step is I have my data set here. It's step 1 file, but it is also on final dashboard anyway. So we will connect to the step 1 file and bring those 3 tables, and then we will quickly make the calendar table. So to do that, we go to data, get data from file from workbook. Now remember, we are referring to Power Query feature here, get and transform data. So in an older version of Excel, you might also see a second set of buttons here that have earlier type of data connection. So we are really interested in the Power Query get and transform feature here. So we go to from file from workbook and point to the file where our data is maintained. Step 1 file has the data and some initial data modeling done. And then you can see that there are a bunch of tables and spreadsheets here. We will look at the data, which is my actual sales data. Products is my products, and regions is my regions. So these are the 3 tables that we want. We will make our own calendar table in the file. So we will just connect these 3, and we could do some transformations, but it's not necessary in this situation. So we can directly load it. When you are loading, you also have a choice of either loading them as tables in this file or just loading them to the data model. I will load them to the file because that way we can actually look at the numbers, but it's not necessary. You can just load them to the model directly and build everything from there. Because I'm explaining it, it might be easier to just see everything on the screen in one place. So this is what we will do. We will load and oh, I think it went with this option anyway. I'll switch this to, we will put it here. We will say load to table, and that would come up here as that's my regions. I'll load this one here. That's my products. And then I will load the final one here. Okay, If you press load button directly, it would have loaded into 3 different worksheets. This is probably even better because we can see everything in one place. So we have our data here, 3 tables, and then because we are getting them as a connection, the table names are also set up through Power Query here. That's regions, that's products, and then that's my data. And then we will add a final table, which is calendar. So for that, we will say a report date. As I said, this is slightly more manual way of doing it, but fine, you can also automate this little step by looking for the maximum date in the data and doing it through Power Query. And then I will name this particular cell as report.date so that we can use that date elsewhere in the report. And then we can calculate start date, which would be this minus 13 times 7. So 13 weeks prior, what is the date? I'll quickly format that one as well so we can see this. And then we can have a table that has only 13 numbers because we are interested only in the 13 weeks analysis. And then the dates for that would be just we'll say this absolute reference plus week minus 1 times 7. And then we can fill this down. It's not necessary to do it like this. Okay, so we have 23rd September at the end and then start. And then this one, I'll turn this into a table. And we will call this as calendar. So we now have 4 tables, 3 coming through connection, and the 4th one that we made up in Excel to kind of narrow down the focus of report to this window of 1 July to 23rd September. And then we will go to the data ribbon and quickly set up relationships and create the model. We got 4 tables. We now need to tell Excel how everything is linked up. So we'll create new relationship here. The first relationship would be I think something funny happened here because it's now showing 2 sets of tables, one in model and one worksheet. It wouldn't really matter, but we will pick this. And so the data model data table store should map to regions store. So that's the first relationship. And then data model data product should map to product. And then data model data week should map to worksheet table calendar date. Okay, so we have 3 relationships here. One is product column here refers to product table, store refers to store, and then week refers to this particular date here. So what happens when the date is like this one, 31st of December 2018, that date has no mapping value here. So in that case, what Excel would do is it will create a fictional value called blank and then map it to that. We will see that in a minute. So I'll call this particular tab as data, and then let's quickly save this. So far what we have done is we got the tables through Power Query and then we established relationships between them, connected everything, right? Let's go to PowerPoint here and let's grab the mockup. This way we have a reference point in the workbook. So if I feel lost, I can always look at what we are trying to do there. And then let's start building the calculations. This is we got the data, we modeled everything, and then now we want to calculate. If you look at the mockup, the top bit is all easy. We have the title, which is just text box or text typed in. But this is what we want to see. We wanted to see some information about customers. We've not really specified what information we want to see there. So now is our chance to kind of define this. Let's just say that for each tile, I want to see what is the number of customers or revenue or expenditure that happened in the latest week, that is week number 13, and then provide a comparison with week 12, so we could see week on week improvement in percentage terms. And then we may want to see the breakdown by core versus non-core. We have two kinds of products here. Some products are core products and some of them are non-core, and maybe just a percentage split of core versus non-core at that level. So that's what we will do. We will make a first pivot table here. Everything will be done as much as possible through pivot tables, because that way we don't need to know any complex formulas to make the dashboard. So we will insert a pivot table. When you insert a pivot table from a blank cell, then Excel will use the data model in the workbook to make that pivot, and then it will just put the pivot table there. So we get our first pivot table. This pivot table, I'll name this as summary. It's not necessary to name them, but having the name there will be useful when you are trying to use multiple tables. As I said, there is something funny going on with my, I think Power Query. When it imported, it created two sets of tables, one in the model and then one outside in the spreadsheet. So that's why there's a repetition of names. For now, we shall ignore these ones and we will just refer to those four tables because they're all together in the model. And let's take the calendar week and add it as a slicer so that I can see all the weeks. As I said, there would be a blank week. We only look at 12 and 13 because that's the focus for this particular summary. And then we will go to data, and then let's take a look at customers. That's how many customers we have across both weeks. And then I will add a week in the column so that we could see how many customers we had in week 12 and week 13. And then we will add, let's take a look at the revenue, expenditure, and then this pivot table is going sideways. So I'll take this values and put it down there so that this is how it would look. And then we will look at service requests as well. So let's see here, we got first three, and then average revenue per user would be revenue divided by customer. Service requests per user would be service requests divided by user. So we got it all sorted. All the numbers are there. We can go to pivot table design, disable grand totals, and then we have that information, right? Given 12 and 13, I can calculate percentage changes as well. What I normally do is I use the pivot tables to do the calculations, and then I can take the values, link them as cells here. This is previous week and this is now, and then we can calculate percentage change here. Now, those of you who are familiar with Power Pivot, you can also do that kind of a calculation right inside the pivot table, but it gets a little too complicated, especially most of us may not be familiar with that part, but we can make a pivot table. So once that is in the pivot table, I can take this week by last week -1 to calculate percentage changes and then bring it down here. So we have those three. We don't need to show the service requests as such. We are only interested in these two measures. So I'll calculate ARPU and then SRPU here. ARPU would be revenue divided by customers, and then SRPU would be service requests divided by customers. And see all of these information, and then it's now time to start building the actual dashboard. So we can add a new tab, and then this is what we will call as dashboard. Now, for the purpose of dashboard, if you look at the final one here, I have used some images because they look, we can show the information as it is, but I thought adding some icons and logos and emojis, etc. We can draw all of these things again from scratch, but it's probably not necessary. So I'm just going to copy these things and then paste them into my workbook here so that we have some assets that we could readily use. Okay, so I'll move them here as well, and then start just laying them out like this. Whenever you are moving any objects in Excel, if you hold down the Alt key, it will kind of snap to the cell boundaries. That's where you don't need to think about alignment that much. And as long as they're same size, you can hold down the Alt key and it will. So this is how the top part of our dashboard would look like. We got 5 tiles here, and then we want to show the big number, which is how many customers we have, and then percentage change from previous week. So we got this, and then we will calculate change for display. And then here, the idea is we want to show an up arrow or down arrow depending on whether the change is positive or negative. Let me take a look at the chat window to see if we have any questions. I can't see anything, so I'll just continue talking. So we have this, and then we will go and insert the up and down arrow symbols. We can use insert symbol, and then we can just insert these symbols. Standard Excel symbols that can be found in any kind of font, so it's not. And then what I'll do is I'll just copy these and then write them. If my change, is greater than 0, then I want an up arrow, else I want a down arrow. And then I want to combine this with absolute value of that percentage. Because we are showing the arrow, we don't need to have the negative sign anymore. Of course, what we wanted is up 3%, but Excel will show up 0.27 or something. This is because the actual value is 0.027. So we will take the absolute, and then we will turn this into a text value with 0% as format. And then that will give you that thing. And then we can fill this down so we can see those things. You could also do a little bit of conditional formatting based tricks. But here, because we are using tiles, this is probably a better way to do this. And then we will, for display, we will say format, and then we want to not just show 905111. We want to show this with a 1000 separator and things like that. So I'll use that as format option for customers, and for revenues I will use $hash. This format, this will show me in the millions. Which also would be in millions, and then the RPU, and then 0.0 for yes. And then once that is there, we could then calculate using text formula this value in that format. So this is what we will get like that. So all we did is we kind of turned this into text format options. Once this is all there, we will then start building the dashboard by here. In each tile, I want to insert a text box. This text box is equal to that number. Okay, and then I'll move it here. I'll quickly fill it up with no color, no outline, and then I will align it in the center. And we will make it nice and big because this is an important number. And then we could also apply some formatting, like for example, you could add a shadow effect to it, and then change the shadow colors so that it kind of looks nice and interesting. Right? And then maybe adjust the colors, not too black, and then we will get that number, right? So this is one tile, and then once that is there, I can copy this, paste it 5 times, move each of them to the respective places. You don't need to worry too much about alignment and positioning issues right now. We will have to cross that bridge at a later point, and then just change the formula. While this all works, as soon as you change the formula, Excel wants to reset the formatting. So once this is done, you still need to select this, double click on Format Painter, and copy the formatting once again. And then once that is done, you can select all of these, align them in the middle, and assuming you have positioned them properly, you can also distribute them evenly so that the spacing is even from your alignment tools, distribute horizontally. So that's that. And then we will do same thing for the percentage change, which is equal to another text box, and then bring that thing here. And then we can position it nice and easily next to that. Apply some color. And once that's there, Control C, Control V, 5 of these, and then move each one to the respective places and adjust the formulas as well. So this is it might look a little bit manual, but this is the only way to get this kind of a messaging in your dashboards. Then again, do the same trick, which is Format Painter. We get our nice tidy little tiles on the top. That bit is done. Let's go and take a look at our final dashboard here and then compare this. So that is all done. We haven't been able to get the core versus non-core distribution. So I'll show you quickly how to do that. We will go back to our pivot tables here, and then we will insert one more pivot table. So this one is core versus non-core. And then in this pivot table, we just want to look at week 13. So I'll add week as a report filter, and then just pick 13, which is the current week. And then for current week, I want to see by core and non-core how many customers we have, how much revenue came through, and then how much revenue and how much expenditure. So we will get this kind of a thing. Again, we can turn off the grand totals and take these numbers, paste here as links. So that's core, that's non-core. And then select this bit, insert as a pie chart. When you have 2 numbers or 3 numbers, it's all right to use pie charts. But when you have 16 different numbers, then probably pie chart is not going to work very well. We will just make this like a bare bones pie chart. And then I'll take the non-core. The non-core is that color. And then we can format that into slightly dull. And then this one is going to be a darker shade of orange. And then maybe make the plot area as big as the chart area. And then once that's all done, then you could resize this in your pie chart, would look like a really small one. And then once that pie chart is there, we will make 3 more of them. For the second pie chart, I'll just move this to revenue. And then third pie chart, I'll move this to expenditure. Again, Excel wants to reset the colors every time you change the data, but no problem. You can select the first pie chart, copy it, select the second pie chart, and then you need to activate paste special. So you can do Alt E S T, and then that'll paste the formatting. For the third pie chart, you don't need to do all of this again. You can just press F4 key, which will repeat the last action. And then once all these pie charts are there, we can cut them and then move them to the dashboard. Just remember the the order of these things and then move them around so that we can see that. Let's quickly remove the outline and fill color so that we are looking only at the, we are only looking at the pie charts. So this is how the top bit is done. We could add some additional things for ARPU and SRPU. There's no point showing the pie chart distribution for that because these are averages, and so it's not like core and non-core would add up to a fixed number or anything. So that's why I didn't put pie charts there. All right, let's take a look at the window. So no other questions, and let's go and look at our mockup. So the top bit is done. Let's go and do the product related stuff, which is the next one. So we can come back here. OK, we are already in this, and then we go to calculations. So for the product related thing, I thought we could offer some sort of a slicer. So we only have 6 products. So you will pick which product you want. And then for that particular product, we want to be able to show some sort of trends and statistics for that product. Let's take a look at the final dashboard here to get what I mean. We are showing, like I can say like this phone, and then it'll say this has 9% of the revenue, then 13-week trend looks like that, 17% of new customers and 17% of exits, and the average revenue trend looks like this, service request trend looks like this, but they also have 17% of all customers and all service requests. That's the kind of detail we want to show. We can insert a pivot table here. This is product detail, and this will show only for a particular product. So we will add product name as a slicer, and I can pick any product, and this pivot will respond to that. And here, for that, we want to show by each week. And then it will show all the weeks, and then there is a blank as well. We don't need to see the blank, so I will exclude the blank. So we are only looking at 13 weeks. And then for each of them, we want to see customers, how many customers it had, how many new, how many exits, and then what is the revenue. I just need to remember what else is revenue, new, exits, all customers, and OK. So it's revenue, and then we don't need that, new, exits. And then we will see the service requests. We will also add customers there. So all the 5 are there. And then we will calculate the actual. This is my pivot, and then for outputs, week, that's the week, and then revenue, exits, and then ARPU, SRPU. This is what we want to see. And then the revenue would be this. New is that. Exit is the next one, and then average revenue per customer is revenue divided by customers, and service request would be service requests divided by customers. So we get this, and then we will drag this down so that we will end up with this. And then we can go to the dashboard. Here we can take the slicer, cut it, and then move it to the dashboard. In the dashboard, I'll position the slicer like that, and then go to slicer, set it in 6 columns so we can see the products. We can also right click and go to slicer settings, and from here uncheck the display header. We don't need to see the header, and this approach is probably not very scalable if you have like 200 products, because then the slicer will take too much screen space, but then you are really thinking about a category or a subcategory or something like that to show that. And then we can select the product, and then what we want to show is the trends. So we will say the trend will show up here. We can select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells because there are 5 trends, and then insert spark line, and then the data range is here. So Excel will create 5 spark lines. I'm going to just adjust the row heights here. And then I will select this. That's the revenue trend. So that could be a line. New customers and exits. Maybe you want to see as columns or something. If you adjust one of these, then all of them get adjusted. So we can select the individual ones and then we can say ungroup. Right, and then these two I can just change them to columns. So that's ARPU and then SRPU, right? And then you can play with this. The trends will change. We also want to show a title on the top. So here I can adjust the row heights, and we will want to say a title like movie plus has, and then show this. But it's a slicer, so you can pick one. You can also multi-select, like drag. So it's now showing broadband and 2 more. So that's what we will do. We'll figure out how to show the title. To do this, we will add a harvester pivot, which is just insert a pivot table. And then in this pivot table, I want to show the product name. We don't need to have any grand totals or subtotals here. And then name this as selected product. We can come back to the dashboard, right click on the slicer, select report connections, and then say this report should be connected to selected product as well. So then what happens is, as you play with this slicer, not only that pivot table is changing, but it's also changing this in between pivot table, and then it's showing only broadband. Okay, so now that that is done, we can calculate the title, which would be if count of, because we have 6 products, we could just select the first 8 rows, and then if this is equal to 1, then that. Else, that means you have multi-selected. So we could say that, and then we want to see the count -1 more. So it would say broadband, but if you select 3 of them, then it will say broadband and 2 more. So it should probably be broadband and 2 more. So we could make it more like a sentence. So we could say broadband has, or right, so that the verb will also change, and then that's what we will plug it here. This is equal to that. So that's that one. We can select this. We can make it. For now, we'll just make it big like this. We'll worry about the other things. And then we want to show some other statistics here, like what percentage of revenue it has and what percentage of customers it has, etc. It can be calculated, but because we only know the total for the 13 weeks, we don't know what percentage this would be as against all products. So we also need another pivot table that tells me for all products what happened for these numbers in all the 13 weeks. We know week 13, but we don't know what is all the 13 weeks. So we will insert another pivot table, and in this we will go. We don't need to worry about week. We don't need to worry about product. We are only interested in total revenue, total customers, and then total service requests. Let's see what else we have shown here. New and exits and all customers. Okay, so we got total new, total exits. This is how it would be. I'll just change it like this, and then I will add week as a report filter. And then here in the week, I'll say select multi items, and then exclude blank. So it will only consider the first 13 weeks, and this is how many you have. Now all of these numbers would be correct except the customers, because customers are, it's every week how many customers we have up to that week. So what this is doing is it's adding all of them and it's showing some ridiculous number like 10 million. That's not how many customers we have. The total customers that we have are whatever is the customer number at the end of week 13. So that's how many customers we have. So for this, you are not able to directly get that 900,000 number. There may be a Power Pivot based measure to calculate that, but because we are not using Power Pivot, let's not get into that thing now. So once all of these are there, then I can calculate display text, and then this would be, let's say, percentage, and then the percentage is sum of all the revenue in the 13 weeks divided by total revenue across all products. So that's how it comes up. If you're thinking, oh, 62%, what is this product? It's because we selected multiple. If you go to 1, then that might be 24%. And then for new, it's sum of this divided by that. Like that sum of exits divided by this, and then this is sum. So we want to know how many customers this product has as against all the customers across all the products. So this would be just that week 13 customers divided by week 13 total customers. Those of you are thinking, oh man, you're using too many relative references. What if something changes? As long as you have good control over the pivot table worksheet where things are set up, you should be fine. We are making some assumptions here, but there's not going to be two 12-week number 12s and 2 week number 13. So this pivot table would always have that format unless you go and mess it up manually. So you're okay to do this, but if you want, you could also use get pivot data and do it like that, or even use cube formulas. But we are trying to avoid as much work as possible and still get it done in the 60-minute mark. Okay, and then total service requests. This is how many service, sum of all of these service requests. We don't have that outside, so that. Once these are there, then we can generate the label is, and then we can make so we want to read it like a text that would say 9% of revenue, 17% of new customers, like that. So that's what we are trying to do. So this would be revenue, that's new customers, exits, all customers, and then service requests. And then the display text would be text formula of that with the percentage format of, and then we can just drag this down, copy this, paste it here as a link so that we will have a section like this. And then we want to look at the top 5 stores as well. Now, because we are very close to the 50-minute mark, I mean, we did start 5 minutes late, so we have another 15 minutes left. So I want to focus on the map charts rather than top 5 stores, and we'll come back to the top 5 stores in a minute. But we will also quickly think about final presentation of this dashboard. So I'll make this column like that and then start creating a space for our dashboard title. That's where that will go. And then I'll start thinking about the column widths as well. So maybe we don't need that much like that. And then make these columns slightly narrow, maybe start moving it like this and select all of these and merge across so that there's space for that to grow. And then this is where the top 5 stores will appear. We'll make the, so this is my regional summary, and then we will make the maps here. We will do the pivots for that. So for the map, it's quite easy. What we want to see in the map is we want to see revenue growth, week on week sales growth by state, and then negative 25% would be orange, and then 0%, that means no change, is yellow, and then positive 50% would be green. So you could see Texas has a very good positive thing, and then this particular German state, Bavaria, has 41% changes, etc. And then that one is Georgia had a negative 25% growth in the sales. So to do that kind of a thing, we will insert a pivot table. Everything is through pivot tables, and then this one we will make region. So we'll just drop state for each state. We'll add country here so we can see by country and state. And then what we want is we want to compare week 12 and week 13 sales and then calculate the growth. So we already have a slicer that will help us select 12 and 13. So all I have to do is link this slicer to that little table there. So we'll name this pivot table as regional summary, and then we will add revenue here. So right now it's showing all of the revenue, and then we can go. We can go to this pivot slicer here, report connections, and then link that to regional summary. So now it would show only week 12 and 13. That's the total number. And then I can add week here so that I can see 12 and 13. What's the number? We will go to report layout, turn this into a tabular format, remove any grand totals and subtotals because we just care about these two numbers. And then we can take the values. We'll start with Australia. The Australian values. Oh, sorry, I meant to do the link. And then, so I'll move it here. That's the state. And then percentage change is, so we'll copy these two as well. It might be easier that way. So this is previous and this is now. And then percentage change is now divided by previous minus 1. So we will get something like this. So then I can select state and percentage change, insert a map chart. We will get something like this. So that's one done. Unlike some of the other charts, map chart is a new chart that introduced recently. So it doesn't really have like the format painter or those kind of options. So each chart must be formatted from the scratch. And that's a little bit annoying, but it's not that hard. I'll get rid of the scale and everything, and then we'll select this. We'll press Ctrl+1 to format, and then we will go to series color. The default is 2 color. We'll switch this to diverging scale, and then we will say minimum is a number, middle is a number, and high point is a number. And then the minimum is negative 0.25. Midpoint would be 0, and then high point is that. And then we will color these. This would be that color, that's this color, and then that's that color. So we get Australia. We now need to do Germany. It might look tedious, but it's just a matter of doing the same thing again. So we'll copy these guys, link them here. So that's the state, previous, now, percentage change, and then this divided by that minus 1. And then we'll select these two, insert map So get Germany map, and we will delete everything and then quickly apply the formatting again. 3 colors, number, number, number. Don't worry, I won't be doing the same for USA. I'll just show it to you in the final file. Okay, so we can then cut these, move them to the dashboard, and then just adjust the sizes. So what I did for the final dashboard is I made the US map slightly bigger because geographically it's a larger country, and probably that's where most of our customers come from. So that's how I gave that much space for the US map, and then this much space for Germany and Australia. Okay, so since we are very close to our ending time, I'll switch over here and then I'll explain the missing pieces of the puzzle. So we got those done, and then all I did is lay them out and then add some labeling around it, like this week numbers with percentage change from previous week, core versus non-core as a text cell content there, and then added a boundary with some icon and wording there, and then just displayed the words for the week of Monday 23rd, 2019. And then put the slicer here, color coded everything so the products have this kind of a orange color shade, and then that, and then show these things. To show the top 5 stores for new customers, all I did is make another pivot table, filtered it by week 13, and then showed all the stores, filtered it to top 5 using value filter, and then arranged it in the descending order, and then make a pivot chart. So that's actually a pivot chart. If you select that, then it'll come up here. And the regional focus is this. Because we removed the scale from the charts, I've added a scale at the bottom using a shape that has gradient fill that goes from orange to green, and added some labels in the cells underneath. And then just put the logo and little bits of stuff there. And final bit is to kind of set print area so that if you want to print this, everything looks in one page. So that's how the dashboard is constructed. If I'm trying to be honest, then this is definitely not a 1 hour dashboard, because you need to have some vision of how it should look and what kind of features you want to use. And this is something that you will only get with a little bit of experience and making some mistakes or making different things and talking to your audience. But assuming you have that kind of experience or a vision of what needs to be done, then definitely you can make something like this in an hour or maybe less than 2 hours very quickly. So once the webinar is over, I plan to really take this and turn it into a set of blog posts as well, because I really like the way this has shaped up, and it does highlight some of the best practice and ideas that you can take in Excel, like Power Query for connections and refreshability, and pivot tables for driving the calculations, and simple slicers for interactions and everything. I really wanted to make this like a web dashboard as well. That means if I share it on my Excel online, then others could be able to view it. Unfortunately, online Excel doesn't support map charts, and it also doesn't support interactivity when you have data model based pivot tables. So if you don't have a data model, you simply have normal pivot tables, I think it works. But because we have model here, the online Excel can only show it, and these charts wouldn't even show up. There's just boxes where these charts are. But probably another type of visualization here, and it will still be, you could still be able to see it. And of course, you could take all of this in Power BI as well, and then everything is online. But we are trying to do this with Excel because not everybody still have Power BI, and it's whereas Excel is quite universal in that sense. Okay, I'll stop talking here now. I'll go to the chart window and then see if any questions are there, please post them here and then I could respond to that. Okay, Benjamin says no questions. So let me quickly show you how the top 5 thing is done, and I think that's the only missing bit here, which is, as I said, we have a pivot table that has filtered down to week 13 and then show the 5 stores by using the top 10 filter set up to top 5 of sum of new customers, and it will show that. This is also linked to the slicer here. That means if I change this, I will see both that particular product detail in the top 5 stores for that product. So it's just a matter of linking that slicer to that additional pivot table, and then the pivot chart will update. So that's all. I hope you found this interesting. I'll switch back to the presentation so that we could I can quickly might as well just press these keys. Let me share some resources. I run an online class called Excel School where I teach people how to build dashboards like this. So if you are looking for more comprehensive step-by-step way to build these things, then please consider Excel School program. It has 4 steps, which is we start with data by looking at Power Query tables and relationships and structural and cell references and how to clean up the data, etc. And then how to analyze it with either formulas or pivot tables or doing ad hoc analysis through other features in Excel. And how to make charts, reports, interactions, and conditional formats. And finally, how to publish for productivity in formatting, navigation, refresh, so that you could create something truly awesome like this. So please go to the MS webinar page where the resources are mentioned, and then there is a link to Excel School program there as well. So if you're keen to get some training, then you could look at that course as well. So that's it. I want to say a big thanks to Kwang and team at Microsoft for facilitating this, and big thanks to Microsoft as well for arranging this event. And thank you so much for joining me in the webinar from wherever in the world you are. I hope you had fun looking at the dashboard, and please download it and have a play with it. Thank you.